Bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, the method of the full awareness of breathing, if developed and practiced continuously, will bring great rewards and advantages. It will lead to success in practicing the 4 establishments of mindfulness and the 7 factors of awakening, which will give rise to understanding and liberation. One practices as follows. The first breath. Breathing in a long breath, I know that I am breathing in a long breath. Breathing out a long breath, I know that I am breathing out a long breath. The second breath. Breathing in a short breath, I know that I am breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a short breath, I know that I am breathing out a short breath. These 2 breaths enable you to cut through forgetfulness and unnecessary thinking, at the same time giving rise to mindfulness, enabling you to encounter life in the present moment. Forgetfulness is the absence of mindfulness. Breathing with awareness enables us to return to ourselves and to life. The third breath. Breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my whole body. This breath enables you to contemplate the body and be in direct contact with your own body. Awareness of the whole body and awareness of every part of the body allows you to see the wondrous presence of your body and the process of birth and death unfolding in your body. The fourth breath. I am breathing in and making my whole body calm and at peace. I am breathing out and making my whole body calm and at peace. This breath helps you realize calmness and peace in the body and arrive at a state of mind, body, and breath are one harmonious whole. The fifth breath. I am breathing in and feeling joyful. I am breathing out and feeling joyful. The sixth breath. I am breathing in and feeling happy. I am breathing out and feeling happy. With these two breaths, you cross into the domain of feelings. These 2 breaths create peace and joy that can nourish mind and body. Thanks to the cessation of dispersion and forgetfulness, you return to yourself, aware of the present moment. Happiness and joy rise within you. You dwell in the wonders of life, able to taste the peace and joy mindfulness brings. Thanks to this encounter with the wonders of life, you are able to transform neutral feelings into pleasant feelings. These 2 breaths thus lead to pleasant feelings. The seventh breath. I am breathing in and aware of the activities of the mind in me. I am breathing out and aware of the activities of the mind in me. The eighth breath. I am breathing in and making the activities of the mind in me calm and at peace. I am breathing out and making the activities of the mind in me calm and at peace. These 2 breaths enable you to look deeply at all the feelings arising within you, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and enable you to make those feelings calm and at peace. The activities of the mind means, in this case, the feelings. When you are aware of your feelings and can see deeply into their roots and nature, you can control them and make them calm and at peace, even though they may be unpleasant thoughts which arise from desire, anger, and jealousy. The ninth breath. I am breathing in and am aware of my mind. I am breathing out and am aware of my mind. The 10th breath. I am breathing in and am making my mind happy and at peace. I am breathing out and making my mind happy and at peace. The 11th breath. I am breathing in and concentrating my mind. I am breathing out and concentrating my mind. The 12th breath. I am breathing in and liberating my mind. I am breathing out and liberating my mind. With these 4 breaths, you pass into the 3rd domain, which is mind. The 9th breath enables you to recognize all the states of the mind, such as perceptions, thinking, discrimination, happiness, sadness, and doubt. You recognize and observe these states in order to see deeply into the mind's activities. When the mind's activities are observed and recognized, you are able to concentrate your mind, making it quiet and at peace. This is brought about by the 10th and 11th breaths. The 10th, 12th breath enables you to release all obstacles of the mind. Thanks to illuminating your mind, you can see the roots of all mental formations and thus overcome all obstacles. The 13th breath. I am breathing in and observing the impermanent nature of all Dharma. I am breathing out and observing the impermanent nature of all Dharma. The 14th breath. I am breathing in and observing the fading of all Dharma. I am breathing out and observing the fading of all Dharma. The 15th breath. I am breathing in and contemplating liberation. I am breathing out and contemplating liberation. The 16th breath. I am breathing in and contemplating letting go. I am breathing out and contemplating letting go. With these 4 breaths, the practitioner passes into the domain of objects of the mind and concentrates the mind in order to observe the true nature of all Dharma. First is the observation of the impermanent nature of all Dharmas. Because all Dharmas are impermanent, they must fade. When you clearly understand the impermanent and fading nature of all Dharmas, you are no longer bound by the endless cycle of birth and death. Thanks to that, you can let go and attain liberation. Letting go does not mean disdaining or running away from life. Letting go means letting go of craving and clinging so that you do not suffer from the endless cycle of birth and death to which all dharmas are subject. Once you let go and attain liberation, you can live in peace and joy in the very midst of life. There is no longer anything which can bind you. So taught the Buddha how to observe deeply the body, feelings, mind, and objects of the mind through 16 methods of conscious breathing. He also applies the 16 exercises to practicing the 7 factors of awakening, which are full attention, investigating Dharma, energy, joy, ease, concentration, and letting go.
This time I'd like to invite up our incense lighters. And if we could turn to page 2, we're doing the incense lighting Dhamma together. In gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Hello, everybody. How are you? Well, I see some faces that I haven't seen before. Is there anybody here for the first time today? Awesome. Okay, nice to meet you all. Just to let you know, we do have some restrooms straight through those curtains. We have a couple. And then right next to Bodhidharma down there, we have another curtains that lead downstairs. So if you need to step away for any reason, we have another area down there that includes a water fountain, another bathroom, some toys and things like that. We also ask that if you do have to get up at any time during the service, that you move around the back of the cushions and not in front. And as you enter and leave the temple space, if you can just give a bow to help us create a sacred space here. With that, why don't we all stand and greet each other? And if we could turn to page 3, we're going to be doing our 3 refuges chant. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, a way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And if we could turn to the next page, we'll be doing the Heart Sutra together. Dharma, Prajna, Paramita, Hridaya, Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna, Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, nor old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all delusive views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant, fearless mantra, the utmost supreme mantra, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita.
swaha. Gate, gate, ara gate, arasangate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, ara gate, arasangate, bodhisattva. Dhamma Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra.
You can be seated. Before I get started, if there's anybody who's feeling a little uncomfortable on the cushions, sometimes grabbing a second one can help. So I know we have some empty seats around you, so just some quarterly bodies, feel free to grab them around you if you'd like. It kind of just lifts the body up a little bit and can kind of help. So I have the honor of having the last talk of the year. So you don't have to put up with me for the rest of the year after this. I actually want to start with a koan. If you remember Nasan Scar's talk from 3 weeks ago, maybe, on the dog. This is from the same collection of koans. I'm only going to give you some of it, not all of it. But it's something that I'd like you to kind of think on as it comes to my talk. Wakuan complained when he saw a picture of a beardless Bodhidharma. Why hasn't that fellow a beard? One should not discuss a dream in front of a simpleton. Why has Bodhidharma no beard? What an absurd question. So, if that gave it away, my talk today will be on Bodhidharma. And for anybody who needs a visual, if you look at this first shrine to my left here, that's Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma lived 5th, 6th century CE, so roughly 1,000 years after the Buddha. And for any history buffs out there, it's about the time that the Roman Empire fell and Europe was kind of moving into their Dark Ages or Middle Ages. But people further south are doing okay. Bodhidharma often gets the title of the first patriarch to bring Buddhism out of India into China and thus the rest of the world from there as well. So you often see him depicted as a traveler, as you see over here. Some other things that kind of make him stick out is most of the art of Bodhidharma is Chinese art. That's where he went and talked, but it's very not Chinese looking. So they always depicted him with very dark skin, he has a very wide set nose, and a huge bushy beard. All of these things that people of China those days didn't really possess. As a way to kind of show that he came from another place. Much of what we know of Bodhidharma is maybe not the truest stories. It's kind of hard to talk about somebody from 1,500 years ago. But I think there's a lot of lessons. And sometimes it's fun to believe in some of these stories anyway. And so I'll give you a couple of these just to kind of paint a picture of who Bodhidharma was. It said that when he finally met China, one of the first things that he did is he arrived at the emperor's temple And I want to read a little exchange that they had. And the emperor at the time was Emperor Wu. And seeing that Bodhidharma was, basically a holy man from another place, was really excited to finally talk to somebody. And just to give some background, even though Bodhidharma was one of the first teachers to come over, a lot of the Buddhist texts had already made their way to China. It's a lot easier to send something in the mail, I guess, than to buy something. And so there was already some knowledge of Buddhism, general Buddhism at the time, and so the emperor had lots of questions for Bodhidharma. And it said that this is how their first conversation went. So Emperor Wu said to Bodhidharma, how much karmic merit have I earned for ordaining Buddhist monks, building monasteries, having sutras copied, and commissioning many images of the Buddha? And the Bodhidharma looked to the Emperor Wu and said, none. He said, good deeds done with worldly intent bring good karma, but no merit. And so then the Emperor Wu said, so what's the highest meaning of noble truth? And Bodhidharma said, there is no noble truth. There is only emptiness. And then Emperor Wu said, then who's standing in front of me? And Bodhidharma said, I don't know. After this, Bodhidharma was kind of kicked out of the kingdom. He had to find another place to go and teach. I think there's a lot of things that we can kind of pick out of this story. And I'll give you one. I don't think this is necessarily the only lesson you can pull out of this. But I really love how Bodhidharma tackled this idea of karma versus merit. Because Bodhidharma didn't deny that there was some karmic good put into the universe by doing all these things. But what Bodhidharma refused to engage with was this idea of merit. And without going into a huge tangent, I think a big difference between this sort of karmic debt that we see into our surroundings and this merit is one is about possession, one's about the self, and one's about the community, right? There was no doubt that these things that the emperor did sowed a lot of great karmic seeds, but the emperor was looking for, what merit have I gotten? Does this make me a good person? Do I have my merit? And it was that Bodhidharma refused to engage with. And I think it's really important that when we are doing things, let's say for the betterment of the world, that we're not just doing them to kind of build up our own sort of egos or merit here. It's that selfless giving, I think, that Bodhidharma was speaking to. And there's a really, strong idea of emptiness had already been around at that time too. And I'd like to think, was the emperor really upset that, he did all these great things just to find out that it didn't make him any better of a person? But it built a better community, right? But maybe for the emperor that wasn't good enough. So it said after this that Bodhidharma traveled up to the Shaolin Temple, which many of you have maybe heard of. If you're a Wu-Tang Clan fan, then you've definitely heard of the Shaolin. So this is a temple that had already existed. It was built around this time, so it was a fairly new temple at the time that Bodhidharma arrived. And it said that, again, as he arrived to the temple, seeing his sort of brand of Buddhism and how he practiced, they weren't very happy with him either, and they quickly kicked him out of the temple. So seeing that he got kicked out of every place that he went, hopefully we treat our immigrants a little bit better nowadays in our country. Back then. So Bodhidharma decided, well, I guess this isn't going to have any luck for me. So he found a cave outside of the Shaolin Temple. And this is where it said that he meditated for 9 years, facing a wall. So one thing that Bodhidharma brought for the first time was this idea of meditation and seated meditation, which was new to China at the time. Most of the practice that they had was copying sutras, reading sutras. Go figure, if you discover Buddhism through a book, then your view of Buddhism as well. It's a study, it's a book that you read. And so seeing an actual practitioner in front of them probably looked really different than what they're used to. Most of the legends of Bodhidharma actually revolve around this time that he spent in this cave outside the Shaolin Temple. And I know that to this day, there is a shrine within that cave, and there's a statue of Bodhidharma in the cave, seated right where he sat, which is kind of cool, because these are historical places that he was, even if the stories may or may not be true. Which is, I tell you more and more stories, you're going to realize they probably aren't, but that's okay. We're going to pretend today. So his style of meditation is really interesting because it was seated in front of a wall in the cave. And I know in the Soto Zen tradition, when we sit, we emulate the way that Bodhidharma sat, but we usually meditate in front of a wall. It's harder to do in our temple just because of the setup of the temple, and we only have so much wall and so many people. But I would ask that if you are interested in building a meditative practice in your home, to maybe think about that. Or maybe try it out if you haven't, to set up your cushion or your chair in front of a blank wall. It really helps. It really does, especially I like to think that our environment kind of colors our minds and vice versa. And sometimes if we need to have that blank mind or that calm mind, staring at that blank wall can help, if nothing else. And I think there's something to honoring this tradition that goes back, at least 1,500 years to Bodhidharma, frustrated at all his rejections. I also think of the toddler who's told no several times and then goes stomp off, just stare at the wall angrily. There's a little bit of that in there too. So one of the first stories that I've heard about Bodhidharma meditating in the cave, which this one's totally true, okay? The other ones might not, but this one's true, is that he fell asleep. And he was so angry at himself for falling asleep in those meditations that he grabbed his eyelids and he ripped them off his face. And he threw them on the ground. And where the eyelids landed, the first tea leaves grew instantly from the ground. And he was able to brew this tea, and the caffeine was able to keep him awake for his meditations. So if you've ever had tea before, that's where tea came from. Also, if you see pictures of Bodhidharma, he's also usually depicted with these big bulging eyes. So he's kind of terrifying. You see this really, gruff-looking guy who wasn't very polite, with big bulging eyes and big bushy beard. But that's where his big eyes come from. He doesn't have eyelids. It's not his fault. Another story, and I don't recommend him being your, even though we emulate him in our sitting, maybe he's not the best example of how to sit, because it's also said that he sat for so long that all of his limbs fell off. He lost his legs and he lost his arms. So get up before that happens. There's another famous story that happens when he's in the cave, and there's actually another koan that is revolved around this. And I'm going to read this one to you verbatim. Bodhidharma sits facing the wall. His future successor stands in the snow and presents his severed arm to Bodhidharma. He cries, "My mind is not pacified. Pacify my mind." Bodhidharma says, "If you bring me that mind, I will pacify it for you." The successor says, "When I search for my mind, I can't hold it." The Bodhidharma says, "Then your mind is pacified already." So in this famous story, somebody sees Bodhidharma, maybe meditating in the cave, and desperately wants to study with him. Obviously, he's having some torment with his mind and comes to try to teach with him. And it's said that he's rejected over and over again. Bodhidharma's like, "I don't have time for this. I'm very busy staring at this wall." Some parts of the story say that it was in the middle of the winter, and through frostbite, he lost his arm waiting for Bodhidharma. And some stories say that he actually cut off his arm to show his dedication to Bodhidharma. There's not a lot of limbs left in this story. I don't know. I think if I came to somebody and said, "My mind's hurting me, it's tormenting me, help me," and they said, "Well,
hand it to me and I'll fix it. I don't know if that would help me or not, but it definitely kind of plays to this idea of the emptiness of mind. What is it that we're actually holding on to? Right? So after 9 years, I think just the act of seeing Bodhidharma out there, and if you're a Shaolin monk in this temple, and you're seeing and hearing about this guy just staring at a wall for 9 years, maybe you start to realize, okay, maybe there's something to it. So it's said that after this period, they did let him into the temple, and he then was able to teach at the Shaolin temple for a brief period of time and take on students. Another story, just to kind of tell you the kind of guy Bodhidharma was, is that seeing that all the monks at the Shaolin temple, who were sitting all day and copying text, that they were very out of shape. And Bodhidharma said, this is no good, and so he on the spot created Kung Fu. And he gave this practice to them in the Shaolin temple. And if you've heard about the Shaolin temple, they're very famous for martial arts. It's one of the originating spots for martial arts in China. And it said that, legend said that Bodhidharma created this by emulating the movements of 7 different animals. So here you go, in this text on the spot. It's not clear in my reading if he gave the Kung Fu to the monks before or after his 9 years of sitting. I think both are hilarious though, because if he gave them to him before, I would tell that all the monks were like, we're not working out, get out of here. And he had to go sit in the cave for 9 years. If he gave them Kung Fu afterwards, we have to think about this guy with no arms and no legs teaching Kung Fu. So I'll let you decide which one you'd rather believe in. There's one other story, and I see if I can find it, about the final teachings of Bodhidharma when he was going to transmit and find his successor. And it said that at the end of his life, he had all of his students come to sort of say, like, what is your understanding of the Dharma? And this is one that I'm going to also read for you as well. Bodhidharma asked, can each of you say something to demonstrate your understanding? Dao Fu stepped forward and said, it is not bound by words and phrases, nor is it separate from words and phrases. This is the function of the Tao. Bodhidharma said, you've attained my skin. Then Nunzong Chi stepped up and said, it is like a glorious glimpse of the realm of Akashava Buddha. Seen once, it need not be seen again. The Bodhidharma said, you've attained my flesh. Dao Yu said, the 4 elements are all empty. The 5 skandhas are without actual existence. Not a single dharma can be grasped. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my bones. Finally, Hoike came forth, bowed deeply, and this is the guy with one arm, by the way. He bowed deeply in silence, and then stood up straight without saying a single word. And Bodhidharma said, you have attained my marrow. So one thing about Bodhidharma's teachings and the origination of Zen itself, which Bodhidharma is often, said that he is the originator of Zen in China and in Japan and so forth, is a sort of unspoken understanding. It's not about reading the right words or understanding the right thing, and it's something you have to experience yourself. It's not enough to see Bodhidharma. You have to embody the Bodhidharma. It's the very marrow of his being. It's stepping into that Buddhahood itself. It's not looking at Buddha, it's becoming that Buddha, is really the heart of the Zen. I'm going to go back to the original koan that I read. Do you remember what it was? I'm going to get good memories. I'll read it again. Yeah, it was about the beard. Wei Quan complained when he saw a picture of a beardless Bodhidharma. Why hasn't that fellow a beard? One of the comments on this is, if you want to study Zen, you must study with your heart. When you attain realization, it must be true realization. You yourself must have the face of of the great Bodhidharma to see him. Just one such glimpse will be enough. But if you say you've met him, you never saw him at all. A few of us in this room have beards, but some of us don't. So what is it to see the Bodhidharma without a beard, or without bulging eyes? See Bodhidharma with eyelids, how about that? It's to encompass that idea of Bodhidharma himself. It's to have those experiences, it's to live those experiences, not just to be like the temple that was copying down the text, or the emperor who was desperately trying to build up the temples to achieve this sort of merit. It's that experience of the Zen that we're looking for. And the whole idea is to quiet our minds and be aware, to see that ourselves as something we already have attained. We just have to open our eyes to it. Become that beardless Bodhidharma. I have a present for everybody. We're also going to do something a little different for our meditation today. There's another part of Bodhidharma's story that I like a whole lot. And it's one of the ways that Bodhidharma and his legacy has been honored in Japan. Has anybody seen one of these things before?
Yeah.
This is called a Daruma doll. Daruma, which comes from Dharma in Japanese. A lot of times, instead of Bodhidharma, they would just call him Dharma for short. And then that got turned to Daruma. So in Japan, Bodhidharma, Daruma, same guy. And this is a Daruma doll. And it's a way to sort of depict and talk about the stories of Bodhidharma. So you see he's got a big bushy beard that goes out, big bushy eyebrows, no eyelids, big bulging eyes. And if you will notice, it's kind of hard to see because they're not there. We don't have any legs and any arms. Another cool thing about this is sometimes they call this a fall down 7, get up 8 doll. And I think it kind of goes to Bodhidharma's story because it starts with a lot of rejection. There's a lot of Buddhist stories where I feel like the meat of the story doesn't really start until we finally give up on our goal, and then it opens up in a way. And so you might notice that it's impossible to keep our guy down. Yep. Even when we find ourselves on our head. Oh, look. There we go. Comes back up again. You know the Weebles wobble, but they won't fall down.
Yeah.
It's kind of modeled after the same toy, the Daruma doll. And there's a function to these guys. So you notice that he doesn't have any eyes right now. And so one way that these are used is that you usually give an intention or wish, and then you paint in one of his eyes, just one. And then for the rest of the year, you set him where he can kind of watch over with his one eye, while you promise him that when we achieve our goal, we'll give him a second. And at the end of the year, you paint the second eye of Bodhidharma, and then they're usually all burned together in a bit of a ceremony. I thought for the last Sunday of the year, I think it would be a really cool thing to do. But so we don't get too caught up in our New Year's resolutions ideas, I thought that maybe we could all put an intention for our temple or an intention for our practice together. Just like the emperor, maybe we can put our merit aside. We can think more of our karmic impact. What's a wish or a goal that we can do for our whole community? Maybe not just for ourselves to become better selves. And then I'd like to paint in that eye together, and I'll probably set him next to Bodhidharma since he can be with company, and maybe he can watch over us for the year and see how we're doing. Does that sound like a plan? So what I would like to do is I mix up the ink. Maybe we could dim the lights. We're going to pass him around. And if everybody could take just a few moments to kind of think of and maybe lay on some of that intention for the year. I know that there are some of you, this is your very first time. And for some of you, this may be your last time. Hopefully it's not my story that kicked you out. But you know, even if it's not intentions for this temple, maybe this isn't your home temple, maybe it's an intention for your community around you. for your practice around you. You know, oftentimes our New Year's resolutions are very center focused, and I want to encourage you to put some resolutions on your community practice. Sound like a plan?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And when you don't have Dharma in your hands, maybe we can just sit in meditation and think of these things. So, Musho, I'll have you start off. Will that work? All right. Has everybody had a chance to meet Bodhidharma? For any of you watching online, I would ask that you also send in your wishes. And maybe next time you're in the temple, you can say hi to our guy. He'll be able to see it. Show it and give him a go home. May need to move some things around. We'll see. And now you know if you see a Dharma doll anywhere, what's the meaning behind it. If you see one eye, it's the promise. Somebody has made a vow or a promise to fulfill something, and they're working towards it. If you see both eyes filled in, then they've achieved that. Sometimes people also keep Dharma dolls in their homes with both eyes filled in, just as a way to kind of watch over the home as well. So, but now you know. I think it's a fun little way to set some intentions. With that, I'd like to open the floor up for joys and concerns. I'll also add a mysterious third category if there's anybody that would like to share what their intentions are for the coming year or for the temple. This isn't like birthday candles, you can tell people. So, and we will have a mic going around, so just raise your hand.
I have a little joy related to the doll, actually. I forgot what they were called, but back when my husband and I were still dating, we were living together in our one-bedroom apartment, and a friend of ours had gone to Japan and came back with two little Dharma dolls, a yellow one and the red one for us. Oh, for him, and both his wishes came true.
Awesome.
Morning, Sangha. My concern is for people in the medical profession right now, nurses and nurse techs. My wife is a nurse in the emergency department. With cold and flu season, it's just become very, very, very stressful, and a lot of her coworkers are, just holding on by a thread, thinking of leaving their jobs. So, just kind of holding some space for those medical workers.
Well, I have something to say too. This has been a hell of a year, right? I feel like I say that every year, but it's not been all bad. My wish is that we keep being hopeful and we keep working and sticking together, because it's a lot easier to walk through the mud when you got somebody's hand to hold. So I thank you all, because I think this temple as a whole has made this year a lot easier than it would have been without it, for sure. to kind of quote the old saying, "This too shall pass," right? So there's sometimes to be happy about the temporal nature of things. So this might be one way. So hopefully in 2026, I'm not hoping for thriving, but maybe we can survive. Maybe we'll have some fun potlucks on the way, right? Some good food. So thank you all. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share or say?
Yeah, sure. Nana Baba. Welcome everyone. Thank you all for showing up today. Super great to see you all here at the end of the year. A couple joys. A lot of joy in your share today and your Dharma talk. There's a lot of humor in that, and I really appreciated that. Yesterday, walking in the temple, so yesterday was the twilight ceremony, and there was a lot of effort put into this. It was so beautiful, so many flowers arrangements set up, and a mandala made of flower blossoms. It was just really beautiful, and it was really great teaching. And there's a lot of amplification at the end, so we're amplifying our, what's the word? Pure world, I think that you use, or you don't assist, like the Buddha world that you want to imagine?
Pure land.
Pure land? Okay. And so there's a lot of good intentions for what we'd like to have, and I think that matched really beautifully with today's ceremony. Let's all envision an intention for the Sangha here. Anyway, I'm really excited to continue into the next year with everyone.
Good morning. My name's Ningshan Su, or Nancy, and I'll share my intention, and that is for building community here within the Sangha, and then for me personally with my acquaintances and friends to build that support system for myself and that we build it for ourselves here.
Good morning, Sangha. My joy and concern is what Sonshin spoke about with the Dharma bell. My intention in the coming year is to do what both the Buddha and my wife has told me, and that is to get over myself and to be less centered on myself. And I was very convicted during the passing of the doll to really focus on that and make it kind of like my beacon of light throughout the year. So thank you.
Ironically, that was kind of Bodhidharma's lesson to the emperor too.
I agree today. My name is Stacy, by the way. I always forget to introduce myself. But I wanted to share my intention, and it was for more softness and kindness for our community in this moment.
Hello, Sangha. My name is Clara, and I just wanted to share my intention. When I was looking at the Dharma, I just saw its open eye and was just thinking about how important for community it is to, keep an open ear and not always be giving advice, but be there to hear more and stay curious about the lives of those around us. So to sort of not speak and listen, and I realize how hypocritical it is that I'm sharing this.
Well, that's all. Why don't we take a few moments just to hold it together, okay? have a few announcements before we do our closing conference. So we have an online meditation group that meets on Wednesdays from 6 to 6:45 p.m. And that will be starting up again in the following month, so next year. And you can get a hold of Puja or the newsletter for more information on that. We also have our Thursday Dharma discussion group. That's Thursdays from 9:30 to 11 a.m. And right now they're discussing Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by Technicon. And you can get a hold of Jing-Su, Brian Duffield, or see the newsletter for more information on that. We also have our Buddhist Mutual Aid Sangha that meets on the second Sunday of every month. And you can see the newsletter for more information or join our Discord for our ongoing discussions going on with that. We also have our Bodhisattva training that is coming up. And it's going to be starting January 3rd through August 2nd, so it's a long one. Although the commitments are a little less than the precepts, as in it's spread over a lot of time, and meetings are only once a month, so we meet on the first Saturday of each month. Receiving the Bodhisattva training represents a deepening commitment to the cultivation of Buddhidharma. This tradition and its temple, students who wish to follow the Bodhisattva path commit to observing the 10 great precepts and cultivating the 6 paramitas to create good Dharma habits. They commit to developing a regular practice for 32 weeks, including prostrations, meditations, recitations, studying, and journaling. Also, one thing that we are doing for the first time this year is the sewing of rakusus. I'm not wearing a rakusu right now, but if you can. So this is one way that in the Soto Zen tradition that we practice and show that our vows that are made, and so they're hand sewn as a meditative practice. And it's also a way that you can literally wear your practice as you come to the temple. So if there's anybody that is interested in sewing a rakusu with us, just reach out to us and we'll see if we can have you included in that. Maybe have some sewing parties together. And as with everything else, you can also see the newsletter for more information on that. Do we have any other announcements that need to be made today? You want to do it?
Well, you do I could, but also I have another announcement.
Good morning. The temple is currently looking to fill a couple of positions affiliated with the Dharma Disciple Group that are a more permanent fixed position. They are a temple librarian and a temple social media coordinator. We're making this announcement to Sangha because we're looking for someone that may have interest, perhaps a skill set, perhaps even experience. But if you don't have experience, but you think, hey, I could probably, check in some books and make sure they go back on the shelf. That's kind of what the librarian role would entail. Hey, I use TikTok and Instagram and have my finger on the pulse, of the social media these days. I'm currently filling that role, and it's not really right. I'm kind of an old guy, so I'm like, not really sure. But at any rate, that's something that we're looking for. If you have any interest in that or even questions about it or think that you might be suited for either of those roles, please come and see myself or Chungo Su, or on the bulletin board at the back entrance, there's a paper for Dharma Disciples. There's a QR code. You can scan that with your phone, and that will send an email or bring you to an email that you can make directly to Chungo Su or myself. So that's another way to get a hold of us if you'd like to email. Thank you. I guess I'll make the Dharma announcement. I would say that Dharma in Buddhism is a way of practicing generosity. This temple is run entirely on all of our generosity, your generosity, and those around you. The Sangha, we bring it all together. If you'd like to make a contribution monetarily, there are Dharma boxes at either end of the temple. There's also a QR code on there that would take you to PayPal, where you can make a donation. Cash in the box, PayPal. You can go to the the website where there's a link to make a donation, and then also, if you're watching on YouTube, on the drop-down menu, there is a link to also make a donation. We're always interested in donations of goods, time, things like that. So if you have, toiletries, other things, you can bring those. And if you're interested in donating your time, again, QR code on the bulletin board for Dharma Disciples, or see myself or Jennifer. Thank you.
Let them in. Just a reminder, after we do our closing gathas, if we could do our best to return the temple to how we found it. So making sure we keep the cushions centered on there. We can ask somebody to collect all the booklets and things like that. We'll also be having a tea time downstairs. So if you want to drink some tea and hang out for a little bit, we'll be downstairs after that. So with that, why don't we stand and we'll do our closing gathas together. And you can find those on page 6.
For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginning with greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain.
And if we could have one side, turn to the next. We'll give one last closing bow. Thank you all. Thank you for coming today.
Nancy, how are you?
I'm welcome.
Good.